He stepped out of the car, his grandfather walking beside him, the employees bowing and greeting them with precise, disciplined gestures. She couldn't keep her eyes off him, every inch of him pulling at the threads of her heart, making it ache with a nostalgic, bitter longing. She thought about how this was the same man she had once been inseparable from, and yet now, he seemed untouchably far away, a figure framed by the weight of the world and their distance. She noticed the sharp lines of his face, the way his glasses made him appear even more striking, more formidable, more painfully attractive. Leeway turned slightly, a subtle glance in her direction, and she froze, ducking behind the corner as if mere visibility could shatter her resolve. But in her attempt to stay hidden, she collided with the young lady from the hospital, who also seemed to be peeping at Leeway. They looked at each other, eyes wide with mutual surprise, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them in the tension-laden air. Amara looked at the young lady, surprise flickering across her face, and before she could say anything, the young lady smiled, a small, confident curl at the corner of her lips, and told her that she had been looking for her all over and had managed to deal with the receptionist. She had been fired. Amara blinked, stunned, a mix of disbelief and gratitude tightening her chest, and asked how she had managed to do it. The young lady shook her head, brushing it off, telling her not to worry about it, that she knew how to deal with people like her. She stretched out her hand, deliberate and steady, introducing herself as Sunny. Amara hesitated for a moment, her fingers brushing against Sunny's in a tentative handshake, and finally murmured her name, Amara. Sunny's eyes softened slightly, the edges of her smile warming as she told Amara that she seemed like a nice person. She leaned in a fraction, her gaze earnest, telling her that she had just returned from abroad, worried she wouldn't meet anyone nice, and yet here she was, and things seemed different. Leaning in closer, Sunny asked if Amara really wanted the internship, her tone almost conspiratorial, a spark of possibility in her voice. Amara nodded, the knot in her chest loosening slightly as she told her she was a medicine student. Sunny's smile widened, a small triumph in it, as she told her she could help. Without hesitation, she grabbed Amara's cell phone, fingers moving quickly across the screen as she typed her number, explaining that when Amara was serious, they could meet, she could give her resume, and they could see what she could do about it. Amara watched her, curiosity sharpening, questions rising unbidden in her mind. Why was she so sure? Did she have connections? Who exactly was she, and why did she seem so confident about making this happen? But before she could ask, her Uber arrived, the car pulling up with a quiet hiss of tires. She said her goodbyes quickly, gratitude lifting her mood in the smallest measure, and stepped into the car. As it pulled away, she let herself smile, a fragile warmth spreading in her chest at the thought that at least she had the chance to see Leeway, even from afar. Her heart was still heavy, but for a fleeting moment, content. Meanwhile, back at East Gate Group, the conference room was filled with the low murmur of employees, their attention shifting as Leeway and his grandfather entered. The grandfather's voice, steady and commanding, filled the room as he addressed them, telling them that finally he could rest and not operate from the shadows, that only a few had known he was still alive and loyal all this time, and that he appreciated it deeply. He added, with a note of regret, that they had lost one employee who had also been loyal, Leeway's assistant, who had passed from a short illness. A solemn silence hung in the room as they closed their eyes in respect. Yet Leeway's eyes remained open, cold and unreadable, watching silently. The grandfather's gaze swept across the room as he continued, announcing Leeway as the president and heir of East Gate Group, his voice carrying authority and finality. All the work he had done in the background would slowly be handed over, and he hoped the employees would give Leeway the same respect and loyalty they had given him all these years. The room erupted into applause, hands clapping with measured reverence, yet Leeway barely moved, his mind elsewhere. After the conference, Leeway walked directly to his office, the weight of everything pressing against his shoulders. He entered, the door shutting behind him with a soft click, and he sank into his chair, leaning back, closing his eyes. All he could see was Amara, her face, her laugh, the warmth of her presence beside him. The ache of missing her hit like a physical blow, a deep, twisting pain that made every breath heavier, every heartbeat sharper. He thought of the plans that had been thwarted, the complications that had multiplied, how he had thought all he needed was to catch the mastermind, end the threat, and be free to marry her. But everything had grown more tangled, more impossible. A sudden noise from the book unit broke through his reverie. His eyes snapped open, sharp and alert, the tension coiling in his chest. Slowly, carefully, he stood and approached it, each step measured, aware of every creak in the floor beneath him. He opened the unit, muscles tensed, and there she was, Sunny. She stood there, startled, clutching a book to her chest, covering her face as if shielding herself from exposure. Leeway's eyes narrowed, piercing, and he asked, voice low and controlled but edged with warning, who she was and what she was doing there. Meanwhile, Amara walked back on campus, her steps heavy with thought, the weight of uncertainty pressing on her chest. She decided to check on Momo, who had not been answering her calls or messages. Her heart tightened as she made her way to Momo's dorm room, each step echoing softly in the quiet hallway. She stood before the door, knocking lightly, but there was only silence. She knocked again, louder this time, hoping for some sign of life, yet still nothing. Another girl appeared, holding school documents, her eyes immediately scanning Amara with concern. She asked if Amara was Momo's friend, and when Amara nodded, the girl's expression softened. She explained that Momo had not been showing up to class and that she usually sat beside her, which is why she had noticed her absence and grown worried. She handed Amara the documents, telling her that they were assignments given to the class, and that if she saw Momo, she should urge her to come to class. With that, the girl walked away, leaving Amara standing there, clutching the papers, a swell of panic rising in her chest. She knocked again, more insistently, but there was still no response. Her fingers hovered over her phone, about to call her again when a text notification beeped. She immediately looked at it. It was Momo. Her words were careful, deliberate, a soft plea for understanding. She needed to sort some things in her life, needed space and time to herself, and hoped Amara would understand. Amara read the text slowly, letting each word sink in, the ache in her chest deepening, before she responded that it was okay, that she would wait and trust her, and that if Momo needed her, she would always be there to talk. She placed the documents gently by Momo's doorstep, lingering for a moment as the weight of the moment pressed on her. A bitter thought tugged at her heart. How strange, how cruel, that she was going to be apart from the two most important people in her life, the man she loved and her dearest friend. She turned and walked away, her steps quiet, each one heavy with longing. Meanwhile, in her room, Momo sat alone in her closet, the door closed, the world shut out as tears ran down her face. She clutched Master Shen's watch in her hand, the metal cold and unforgiving against her palm, trying desperately to suppress her sobs, but failing. The weight of everything crashing down on her, thoughts spinning violently in her mind, hatred for him and grief of losing him, the unbearable emptiness inside her, the pain of feeling something ripped away, and the cruel twist of fate that Leeway had been the one her father had chosen, and not her, the reason her life had been left incomplete. And the cruelest wound of all, Leeway, the guy who had taken so much from her, was Amara's fiancé, her best friend. How was she supposed to navigate the tangle of anger, grief, and helplessness? Meanwhile, at East Gate Group, Leeway stood in his office, his jaw tight, the coldness in his eyes sharpening as he pulled Sunny out from the book unit. He looked at her again, gaze hard and unyielding, his voice a controlled edge as he asked who she was and what she was doing there. Sunny did not flinch, did not blink, her eyes fixed on him as though he had cast a spell over her. Her lips parted slightly, words hesitating at the edge of escape, but they did not come. Leeway, his patience thinning, his annoyance prickling at his skin, warned her that he was about to call security. Before he could reach for his phone, she stopped him, urgency and fear mingling in her movements. Her words stumbled out, halting and uneven. Her name was Sunny, and she was there to take a close look at him. Leeway's dark eyes narrowed, unblinking, searching her for truth as he asked her why. Sunny's gaze dropped immediately, shy and almost ashamed, refusing to meet his. He tilted his head, his presence a quiet pressure, compelling her to lift her eyes to his again. Her voice came low, almost a whisper, barely steady as she said the words that made his blood still. It was because he was her future husband. Her gaze darted away the instant the words left her lips, leaving Leeway frozen, his mind reeling, struggling to make sense of what had just come out of her mouth, the quiet room heavy with the tension and weight of her confession. Leeway kept his eyes locked on Sunny, his gaze sharp and unyielding, as he asked her to repeat herself. She met his stare, her own eyes steady, and told him once more that he was her future husband. She added, her tone light but deliberate, that she had expected not to like him, that maybe he would be one of those corny, feminine men, yet she found herself liking what she saw. Leeway said nothing, his expression unreadable, the weight of his presence pressing in the room. Finally, he spoke, his voice cool, cutting through the tension. She was delusional. He reminded her that he had no memory of any agreement to be her husband, and that the sooner she expelled that thought from her mind, the better. Sunny looked back at him, a small, confident smile tugging at her lips. Even his attitude, she said, was exactly what she had been looking for. Without hesitation, she leaned in, standing on her toes to meet his height, and told him he should be prepared to see more of her. With that, she rushed out, leaving a ripple of confusion and curiosity hanging in the air. Leeway remained standing, his mind racing, trying to understand who she really was and why she was suddenly claiming that he was her future husband. His grandfather entered the room, his presence commanding yet calm. Standing before Leeway, he spoke, explaining that since he had officially handed everything to him in front of everyone, the next step was to introduce him to the system, the intricate network that held the organization together, the people who would continue to assist him in his absence. Leeway's chest tightened at the words, the thought of the system igniting a fierce, cold fire inside him. That was exactly what he had wanted. The system, the corrupted, ratcheted organization he had long sought to dismantle, to make every part of it pay. Looking at his grandfather, he allowed a small, controlled smile, stating that he couldn't wait to meet everyone. His grandfather's gaze softened, his words firm yet measured. He told Leeway that he needed to trust him first before taking action, and that, so far, he was on the right track. Leeway nodded, his jaw tight, promising that he would not disappoint him. As his grandfather turned to leave, Leeway's voice stopped him mid-step. He asked if he knew who Sunny was, the girl who had just appeared in his office claiming he was her future husband. His grandfather paused, a smile flickering across his face. He asked if Leeway had already met her, and Leeway nodded. Then he asked who she was. His grandfather told him that Sunny was the daughter of a friend, a good girl he would like, with a well-off family, a perfect match for their lineage. Leeway's eyes narrowed, a storm of disbelief and frustration swirling inside him. He reminded his grandfather that he had always said love was a weakness, that falling in love was a risk. So why was there an exception for Sunny? His grandfather remained silent for a moment, his eyes steady and calculating. Then he leaned in, his voice low, explaining that Sunny had something to give, a value that had been recognized through generations. Powerful families aligned themselves with other powerful families, not for love, but for influence and survival. Leeway's chest tightened, a sharp pang of pain cutting through him. His voice trembled as he asked if that was the reason he had also killed his mother, because she had nothing to give, a teacher from a background not strong enough to warrant mercy. That was why he had chosen not to spare her or his little sister, instead of only taking his father, who had been at fault. His mind spun, his fury threatening to break through. For a moment he felt himself spiraling, the urge to snap, to strike his grandfather dead right there overwhelming him. But he forced himself to breathe, the air harsh in his lungs, and let the sharp edge of anger dull to a simmering, coiled tension. His grandfather stepped closer, placing a steady hand on his shoulder, grounding him. He clarified that he was not asking him to love Sunny, only to see the alignment with her family as beneficial for the legacy of their own. He reminded Leeway that he himself had once married for the sake of the family, and it had worked out just fine. With that, his grandfather walked out, leaving Leeway alone. His fists clenched at his sides, the muscles taut with suppressed rage. His eyes darkened, a storm brewing within him. The urge to scream, to tear apart the place, threatening to overwhelm him. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to take a deep breath, to center himself, the tension coiling tightly in his chest, a silent, brooding force waiting to be unleashed.